Welcome. Time has no meaning here. Your pain will be ended.
With your death, this nightmare may finally end. Be sacrificed.
He's under that tornado, over that tornado. I think. Yeah, we got him. Whew. There we go. Hello, friends, subscribers, future subscribers, and everyone that's been waiting for this video. I've been asked for weeks to make an Ellie Hit Raider video or a guide in general, and it's one of those things that I just haven't even known how to go about doing. This is one of those builds that it's a long-term passion project for me, and I do this every league for at least the past few leagues, and it's how I find personally the most fun out of Path of Exile. I find a lot of people kind of bounce around between different builds. They'll save up X number of exalts, 50, 100, whatever, and they just say, hey, can I make that build for 20x or whatever they have? And this is the type of build, at least for me, where you can't answer that question. And it's how I approach the game to find fun out of it in the long term. It's really easy to just go to some video, go to some guide on whatever, go to the forums or whatever, and just carbon copy a build, play it for like 2 or 3 days, just be like, I don't like it, and then just leave. And that's kind of something. That's what I did with an Ellie Hit Raider last league, and I learned a lot. I played it for a couple weeks. I crafted up all the gear. I had perfect gear effectively last league, and something about it just I bounced off it. Like, it just didn't feel perfect to me, and so I shelved it. And then this league, I've been bouncing around between a bunch of different builds, just trying everything under the sun. And I kind of landed on, you know what? I want to make an elemental hit raider for me. I want to do unique things to it. And this is what I try to do with all of my builds that I really like to go deep in, is I will have a bunch of satellite builds that I'll try this, I'll try that for a few days. I'll learn more stuff about the game. But the most important thing to me for having a lot of fun is going really deep in a build. I'm going to play one build for the entire league, and I'm going to handcraft every single item. I will not buy a single pre-made item. I will handcraft every single item. There is a personal story behind each item, and I will craft it in a way that it fits my playstyle and not just some cookie cutter PoE ninja, hey, look at my #1 DPS type of stuff. I really like a balanced feel to how I like to play my builds. I don't do everything like everyone else, and I think I found what really works for an Ellie Hit Raider for me, and some of the lessons that I learned here I will be taking into future builds. And this is like just my long-term philosophy with PoE and builds and all that, is just I find little things that I can tweak that if you sort by any category on PoE Ninja, you're not going to find it. But like when you play this configuration of this build, in my opinion, it's at least for me, the best. So yeah, let's do a simple little gameplay demonstration, and then I'll start going into the details.
I'm not up to that just
So this is just a regular T16 Atoll. So we go in, we pop Blood Rage,
my mana is
and then we just start killing things. So my description for this build is it's like taking a chainsaw through butter, and that's really like when Path of Exile is the most fun, is you're just mowing through everything. Like every single monster on the screen, doesn't matter if it's a boss, doesn't matter if it's a super juiced up rare, doesn't matter what it is. You are just like cutting through everything. Nothing can touch you. You become the god killer that killed Kitava. You killed Shaper. Like you just laughed in all their faces, and that's like, you know, that's that power fantasy of what you want to get. And I find a lot of builds are deficient in that, and this is just the type of build that really takes the cake, and it does it for me. All right, so inspired by Elishar, I really like just using Google Sheets here. I'm a big fan. So what makes my elemental hit raider different than other people's? Number one, like this sounds like such a small thing, but I use Blink Arrow. Honestly, a big part of the reason why I find bow builds so fun to play is being able to use Blink Arrow plus Dash. Like the mobility that I get with Blink Arrow and Second Wind linked to Dash like this, and I use Anomalous Second Wind, so I have 2 more cooldown uses, is I can Blink Arrow, Dash, Blink Arrow, Dash. Like this mobility, it kind of has that feel of Smoke Mine and Flame Dash. And that feels so buttery smooth when you're leveling. And then a lot of builds late game, they feel gem starved. They're not willing to sacrifice something for having Blink Arrow plus Dash. And this is just the feel of like I have infinite mobility effectively. And this is part of what makes it feel buttery smooth, is I am just always going super, super fast, and I love that feel. Like, if I play a bow build, I'm sneaking in Blink Arrow and Dash. Doesn't matter if it's Toxic Rain Trickster, doesn't matter if it's Ellie Hit Raider or Ice Shot Deadeye. This is making it into the build. Like, I would just rather not play a bow build if I don't have Blink Arrow. So that's just a very strong bias by me, and I think the quality of life that you get, like you look on PoE Ninja and they're almost all only using Dash, and like, okay, yeah, you snuck in a Vol haste, or you snuck in a lightning golem, so you got 2% more damage or whatever, or you can pop your Vol skill and do a little bit more damage for the boss, but you kill in 2 hits anyway, right? Like, I want that full quality of life as I'm mapping. I don't care about the random DPS that shows up on PoE Ninja. So yeah, like you'll find a lot of people with Lightning Golem and Vol Haste or Vol Grace, and I just don't do it. And also, I don't like popping like 10 Vol skills. Like, you have to hit like 5 buttons just to start attacking the boss. I hate that. This is a thing that I do. Some people do it, some people don't. I don't like Wind Dancer. I have a whole long rant on it with MS Paint pictures and everything, but the short of it is that for characters that are under a certain threshold of life, if you're gonna die in 1 hit anyway, I don't want to be more likely to die. Like, if I have 3,500 life and I take 20% less damage, that one shot's still gonna be a one shot, and now I'm more likely to be hit. And that's just the way that I look at Wind Dancer, and I save 3 passive points by not taking it. That's worth it to me. Feel free to take Wind Dancer if you like. I really don't like it. However, Wind Dancer is very good if you have if you're not evasion based, or if you have way more defensive layers, like you're a trickster, and then that's just like a really big stack on top of it for more defense. I do not like Wind Dancer for a raider. So this is the thing that I started doing early on. I didn't see anyone else doing this early, but I looked through PoE Ninja last night, and more people are doing this, so they're catching on. You'll find that people are doing, so in our helmets, we have Arcanist brand with Wave of Conviction and Sniper's Mark. And what you'll find a lot of people that are doing like the older version is they would also have Combustion in there. So you get that -9 fire res when they're ignited from Wave of Conviction. And then in their body armor, they would have either GMP or Elemental Focus. The damage of LE Focus, especially versus Combustion, is kind of insignificant almost. And if you're always combusting them when you're not popping your Arcanist brand, you actually just have generally better clear speed. And when you transition from your clear LE hit to your single target LE hit, like for example, you find a really hard, very hard rare or a bestiary beast, you can actually you can combust them with your clear speed, and then you're already getting a lot more DPS off your single target elemental hit. And I find just the quality of life of having combustion on the clear speed is really high. I see that more people are doing this now, but when I did this, I didn't see anyone else doing it. It's I think just the quality of life is nice. Like you'll find a lot of builds that you sort by DPS, And their setup is you walk into the boss room, you pop Vol Haste, you pop Vol Righteous Fire, and you drop your brand and Wave of Conviction. You press like 3 to 4 or 5 buttons, and you just do that to get that DPS that you kill them in 1 or 2 hits anyway. And I prioritize the fewer buttons we can press, the better. So that's how I like to build my characters. I don't use Frenzy Charge rings, so a big part of this is they cost 80 plus exalts each. And early on in the league, I could have set up snipes for getting Frenzy Charge implicit synthesized rings, but I didn't do it. I didn't know the first couple weeks I was going to play Ellie Hit, and now it's just the price is insane. So what I did is I crafted very, very unique rings. No one else really has rings quite like mine, and it's part of what defines my build from other people's, differentiates it from other people's builds. So you'll see that when we go over the gear. So I also, similar, I bought Frenzy Charge implicit gloves instead of crafting really expensive gloves. So I bought these for 2 exalts, and I just threw it into some Harvest Reforged Life or Harvest Reforged whatever, and I hit really good life. And yeah, I get a Frenzy Charge on my gloves without spending a ton of money crafting all sorts of crazy stuff. And long term, absolutely crafting gripped gloves with Calling Strike plus Frenzy Charge, elemental damage, all that stuff is significantly more damage. But I also prioritize having all of the resists and the life on my gloves. I like having over 4,300 life here. You go to PoE Ninja, everyone's got like 3,500, and this is just a thing that I prioritize. And since it has the Frenzy Charge implicit, I can do some really nice things with veiled modifiers and still get my damage up. I can still craft these up further without spending 8 to 161 exalts. If you look at Elishar's recent video for Ellie Hit gloves, the good ones are like 160x. So this was just 2 exalts and really nice gloves. And so this is more of a philosophy thing. When I have a league-long passion project, and this is where I get a lot of the fun out of playing the game, is I made this build. Like, yeah, I bought some bases, but every single item for me has a story behind it. And I played the build for dozens and dozens of hours. Like, let's let's take a look. 12 days, 14 hours played. Like, this is my home base build that I always go back to. And I'll do a map, I'll fight a boss, and I'll be like, I just want a little bit more chaos res, or I need a little bit more, upfront damage before, dropping my Arcanist brand. And I can like slowly tweak it over the course of an entire league. And that's, for me, that's where a lot of the fun comes from in the game. It's not just like, oh, I threw 50x at a build, it didn't really fit for me, didn't like it, and then scrap it. I really like going super deep and sticking with something and seeing if I can make it work for me. So like I said, league-long passion project, prioritize the quality of life and overall feel instead of just measuring my DPS over other people. I also have endurance charges because of my ring. I have really good life. I have 66 chaos res, and I also have Avatar of the Chase instead of Avatar of the Veil. That's a thing that I'll get into when we talk about the passive tree. And so my character is just faster, smoother, more fun to play. Really like the MTX setup. I like the way that a ranger looks. I like her stance. I like her voice lines. She's fun to play. And the MTX on her and running around with the bow and all this is just, I'm a big fan. So yeah, this is my Awakener 9 Sirus DPS is at 44.5 million. It's as you saw in the intro, it is very good. And my league goal is to hit over 50 million Sirus DPS, which is achievable. And I think, there are people on PoE Ninja that have hundreds of millions of DPS, but I self-crafted all my gear and I kind of built it piece by piece. And I also have, I think, more defensive layers than those players. So this is just, I am proud of this. It's not the big DPS that you see on the PoE Ninja, but for me, it fits. Also, like I showed, I have crazy good resistances. I have some stun recovery. I have some ignite and freeze avoidance. With Avatar the Veil, you have an infinite, but I think that's it's a gameplay choice. And then I just have 110 move speed natty. That's like without any extra frenzy charges or any flasks or anything. 110 movement speed just when I'm walking around. So she is just even in town, she's really nice to run around in. So that works for me. So if we go into the gem setup, this is kind of a set quantity for the elemental hit raider. There's a lot of elemental. This is a build that's been played for a long time. for leagues and leagues, and many of these things are set in stone, but I will call out the unique things that I did. So this is my single target. You want to put this in your bow. It is Elemental Hit with Awakened Ellie Focus, Divergent Inspiration, which is not 100% important, but I really like the reduced mana cost from Divergent. Hypothermia support, because we have Skitterbots, and so they're always chilled, so that's just a really good more damage multiplier. Barrage support, and Awakened Elemental Damage with attacks. This is basically non-negotiable. There's not too much that you can change here. Like I said, it's been around for a long time. It's kind of set in stone. And then in our clear speed, this is what makes, honestly, this is what makes the build so joyful to play. So we have Ellie Hit with Awakened Chain. So we are just chaining all and clearing the entire screen. We don't need Explodey, you know, old Explode or anything. We get that full screen destruction feel, which just, that's why I want to play a build in this game, right? Like that the most joy in this game is doing a map in like 60 seconds and killing everything, at least for me. Then Mirage Archer support. So Mirage Archer, in my opinion, is the best support gem in the game, period. It's just I love it the most. It's super, super fun. You know, you can attack once, you can blink arrow dash twice, and Mirage Archer is still clearing the entire screen. Combustion support. So this is the thing that was very unique when I did it, but more and more people have been doing it now. Is so because we have combustion support here, we're getting that ignite. We are, you know, we're getting that -19 fire res on them. So if we run into a slightly challenging rare, or say, you know, Kosis or Omniphobia in a Delirious map, we can very quickly switch over to our single target barrage attack, and we already have the combustion on them. We don't have to wait for Arcanist Brand to drop and do Wave of Conviction and get the ignite. And so it makes that transition from clear to single target a little bit quicker. And then Divergent Inspiration, which I'm using for reduced mana cost, and then Awakened Elemental Damage with attacks. In our helmet, we have Wave of Conviction, Arcanist Brand, Sniper's Mark. You know, before we fight anything scary, or say we're running around an Ultimatum, we can, you know, we attack a little bit, and then just, you know, every 10 seconds or so, you can drop an Arcanist Brand, and you'll get some bonus damage. I have this specifically 3-linked, because then I have Blood Rage here. You know, Blood Rage is just more damage, more attack speed, very, very nice. Then in my boots, I have Blink Arrow with dash and Anomalous Second Wind. This is, as I showed earlier, just very, very good mobility. I could not play without this. I don't like playing without Blink Arrow. It is for me, non-negotiable. Then we have Steel Skin. Unfortunately locked at level 14. Our strength is a little low. If you can get a little bit more strength out of the build, you know, you can get a higher level Steel Skin. But we have that on our left click, so it's just proccing periodically, and it's pretty nice. Then in our gloves, which have +1 to level socketed AoE gems, we have Enlighten level 4 with Skitterbots, Anger, and Divergent Precision. And those are our auras. And yeah, that's the gem setup. All right, now to the fun and expensive part of the build. So there's the eternal question, right? Like, I get this question literally 5 to 10 times every single stream is, hey, how much did that build cost to make? How much money do I need? How much currency do I need to start playing Elemental Hit Raider? How much, you know, how long have you been playing this build? Like all sorts of questions that, like I said earlier, this is a months-long passion project for me. It's the point of this build for me is it is never done. The point of this build is it is never done. You can always improve something. And so like to kind of answer that question is I wouldn't even think about starting this build with fewer than 30 exalts. And I would not start this build if I weren't willing to invest in the longer term at least 100 exalts. It's not going to, and those are just fuzzy numbers, right? Like, I self-craft everything. I cannot put a price on what I made. You know, there is the actual amount of currency that I spent, but the point of me playing the game was earning that currency and spending it and crafting these items. So like, you know, it's like asking someone who really loves, I don't know, painting Warhammer 40K miniatures, or someone who really loves, I don't know, golfing or whatever. You know, how much over the past 10 years have you spent on your hobby? And it's not about that, right? It's a passion project. It's something that you loved and you the point of your time, your limited time in your life, was to work on this thing. So like, I don't look at the currency that I spent on it. Like, the time in the game was the currency spent. The point of it was the fun, and doing this. Like, this is where the fun came from. So I could not tell you how much I actually spent. Like, all I could do was throw out fuzzy numbers around 100 exalts. I don't even know. So, you know, for me, if I'm going to recommend this build to someone, right, it's be willing to invest in it, and make it something that you're going to play more than a week and then just throw it away. You're only going to really love this build if you sit down with it and play it for a long time. My metaphor to people has been like, you could play your Cyclone Slayer or or whatever, or your BFBB whatever flavor of the month thing, and that's fine. Like that is like your invasive weed that's just like growing between the cracks in the sidewalk or whatever. It's hardy as heck. It's really strong. It's gonna get stuff done, and it requires absolutely zero upkeep. An elemental hit raider is a delicate orchid that requires tender loving care, a lot of investment. You have to look over it every day and make sure it's working. You know, if anything is slightly off, you put some effort into it and you tweak it. But at the end of the day, you're gonna be way more proud. At least for me, you're gonna be way more proud of that thing that took all that effort, and you have this beautiful orchid instead of this like super hardy weed growing out of the sidewalk. At least that's how I look at it. You know, I'm saying all this as I'm looking at my bow. So this was kind of the this was like my magnum opus of the crafting this league, and it's one of those things where I can't even give like a super specific recommendation for crafting. All I'm putting in this spreadsheet, which will be shared in the description below, is what I did to craft these items, and there is absolutely a very large factor of luck involved in this. But like that is part of crafting, and also just, you know, when you're crafting, if you don't want to lose money, you can always, you know, take your fails and sell them off and then start from a new base, and you actually can just make money as you craft and you get failures. And that's what like the big boys do when they're crafting. And you know, be willing to invest a lot of currency if you want to play this build. That's I just want to get that across. How I crafted this bow is I bought a 6-link thicket bow base. I actually spent 6 exalts because I wanted the white sockets. I alteration spammed for many days. I put a few hundred alterations. It cost me about 4 to 6x actually, which is way out of band for average, until I got the +2 arrows of money suffix down here. It's very, very hard to hit. It's very low chance to get it. Then you imprint. You get a Crasic Chimeral, you imprint it, and then you're gonna regal. If you get an extra suffix, you only want one suffix. You only want that +2 arrows. You're gonna do a ferric. I think it's a wolf alpha, which is remove a suffix, add a prefix. And if that fails and you remove the +2 arrow, you're gonna go back. You're gonna reuse your imprint on it, and then you're gonna regal again. And you just want to get a bad prefix or a random prefix and your good suffix. From there, I did a suffixes cannot be changed, veiled chaos orb. I unveiled double damage. You know, if that fails, go back a couple steps and repeat again. And then I crafted multi-mod and suffixes cannot be changed, used another veiled chaos orb, unveiled penetrate. And then if you don't get penetrate, you know, you can craft suffixes cannot be changed again. You still have the multi-mod on there, and then you keep using veiled chaos orbs. That will take 2 exalts every single attempt. And then you're going to close your eyes and slam T1 wed like Chris Wilson intended, which I will show right now. Now we slam. Praise be, close our eyes. Everyone close their eyes. Please tell me it's something good. Please. Pog? Oh my... Then we removed the crafted modifiers. We craft cannot roll attack modifiers, and then you just exalt slam, and the only non-attack modifier that can roll is +1 gems, and that's how we get paragons. So that is how I crafted that bow. And then I actually got a synthesized beast, and I put the synthesize modifier on there myself. +5 attack, life gain on hit is decent. It's actually really nice in ultimatums. But, you know, obviously +1 arrow or flat damage would be better. But, you know, this is my bow. It's not perfect, but it's my personal bow. So that's how I crafted that puppy. The helmet was actually very, very simple. You buy an already enchanted Blizz Crown for depending on the time of the day. The availability is limited, but I got mine for 5 exalts. Buy Warlord Orb, you slam it on, spam Scorch Fossils until -9 fire res, and then you can imprint it. So what we want to do is we can go back to this and actually throw a Maven Orb and try to get -12 fire res later on. But I just wanted to make a helmet to use in the meantime. Buy a Shaper I-85 base, spam Prismatic Fossils to get the nearby enemies take increased elemental damage, and then we woke orb it on, and we hope it's good. From there, we can do all sorts of shenanigans like suffixes cannot be changed, veiled chaos orb, or non-influence to influence, stuff like that. But this is just good enough for now. I'm always going to be saying here is I'm doing about 45 million Sirus DPS. That is enough. This is a thing that we can level up further down the road, but this is plenty to get going with the build. And for reference, a week ago, I did not have many of these items. This is items that I've made in the past week. I had significantly worse items at like 35 million Sirus DPS, and everything still felt fine. We're basically just leveling up that chainsaw and still cutting through butter. So like this is all beyond necessary. This is just to make it feel better and better over and over. The quiver, this is probably my weakest single item here, is all I did is I had multiple quiver bases. So I had a crappy quiver that just had additional arrow and random other stuff on it. I was using that while I had a second base, and I just farmed atolls. I just farmed atolls, doing essence farming and harvest farming. And every single reforged life or attack, I would throw my backup quiver in there, and I hit T1 life and additional arrow. And then I did prefixes cannot be changed and reforged crit in harvest, and I got T3 crit multi crit strike chance, crashed on some res, and good enough. And I can keep doing this actually until I get higher tier stuff, and then I can do a veiled chaos orb and get additional elemental damage. But this is good enough for now. So my rings, this is kind of what sets how I built the character apart from how other people did it. I just really love my rings. So this one is really, really unique compared to what anyone else has. And in fact, I would use this ring over a frenzy charge ring. This ring I would use a frenzy charge ring over. I'd take a frenzy charge, but this one is really, really cool. And I appreciate the uniqueness of this one. So what's cool about this one is we just started with an Elder Vermilion ring, and what we really wanted on this was just like some crit multi and then to get the other stuff. And what we did is like with the quiver is we had a tab just called crafting, and we would have a bunch of bases that were a long-term craft that we'd spend a lot of time on. And every time we got a harvest, we just, here's my life harvest, here's my crit harvest, etc. And when I would hit something good, then I'd be like, okay, this is ready to craft on. And I really think that's the right way to approach harvest in general. And it makes harvest, you smile when you see harvest instead of you're like, oh, this is going to be annoying. Because you can just go in there and boom, boom, boom. You know what you're going to do in there. There's zero thinking. It's a quick in and out. I think I did some chaos spam, some annuls. I threw it into random reforged life and reforged attacks and whatever. And I ended up with, and actually I did some annuls, and I ended up with max life and elemental damage. So I did prefixes cannot be changed, reforged crit, which gave me T1 crit multi. Then I farmed in Ashling T4. I got 2 suffix mods. I unveiled +1 min endurance charges and the cold and chaos res. And then we just crafted non-channeling. So the one like really unique thing here is the minimum endurance charges. Having endurance charges the entire time that you're mapping is huge, actually. Like that reduced physical damage taken. It makes balancing your resist a little bit better. You get 4 all res all the time. It's just really, really, really nice. And then having the 20 additional chaos res, that's why we have 66 chaos res, and it makes things like fighting Sirus and heisting and everything just so much higher quality. I'm a big fan of chaos res. If I see less than 20 chaos res, to me the build's just not done. That's how I like to build things. And then the other ring, we actually made this one yesterday. So we bought the flammability on hit base for just like 50C, super cheap. And so what we had done is our old helmet had like 55 intelligence on it. And to put this helmet on with no int, we had to craft, we actually decided to craft up a ring and get intelligence on it. And so what we did is, instead of getting a warlord ring and trying to get intelligence, life, res, and the flammability on hit, like that's just a pain in the butt. We decided to scrap having a vermilion ring. So we did lose the really nice life implicit, and just spam Deafening Essences of Spite, which guarantees the tier 0 intelligence. We threw a lot of them. We threw a lot of them at it. And until we hit T1 all res and T1 life. Now we ended up with the garbage energy shield, but that's okay. You know, imperfection is kind of what, you know, it sets apart your own build. It makes it personal. We ended up, with Rainbow, the life, and the intelligence. We did an Ashling Slam on here, and we got a suffix for cold and chaos res, and then we just crafted Wed. You know, it's not super flashy. It really makes up for some stats and some resistances, and it, you know, it's like the rug in Big Lebowski. It holds the room together. So this for the body armor, we actually crafted this one yesterday. We had the identical body armor without the increased life and with unelevated attacks, and we made this one yesterday. It's very easy to craft. So I bought any influence garb. I actually bought the any influence garb, Assassin's garb, a while ago, eye level 86. And so, like I said earlier, in your crafting tab, every time you see like Reforged Influence, you can just have a base that's, or like, you know, change to a random influence. So I bought like, I don't know what it was, a Shaper, Elder, Assassin's garb for like 10C. Like no one wants it, right? It's like the bad influence, right? I just threw it into the Reforge until I hit Hunter influence. In one of my cat arenas, I did T4 Hillock and I got the 30% qual. Then I threw Serrated Fossils at it until I hit T1 attack crit and another mod. I think it was Fizz taking his fire or something like that. Or no, this was on the Hunter base, so I think it was maybe Fizz's Chaos or something. We hit it with the Maven Orb. We got very lucky, and we got the elevated attack crit. Then we bought a super cheap eye level 85 Warlord base for like 10 chaos, Serrated Fossils, just a couple, until we hit Socketed Attacks minus 15 mana, woke the Warlord onto the Hunter. Unfortunately, we got a really bad suffix, which is very sad, but we crafted Suffixes Cannot Be Changed. We threw it into a Reforged Caster, which guarantees additional curse, and we got incredibly lucky, and we got 12% increased maximum life, just crafted flat life, and that's the chest. So, you know, it only took 6, 8, let's say between 9 and 10 exalts, and then some, you know, some elbow grease. And we have an Assassin's Garb that is effectively worth, you know, I don't know. I priced it on the market, and the only similar ones were 30 plus exalts. You know, we got lucky on that increased maximum life, but this is how you can save a lot of money. And I'm able to sell my previous one with the unelevated for about 10x. So, you know, this one cost me effectively nothing to make, and it's worth 3 times as much as my previous one. And that's part of the reason why I like crafting my own items. And also it's just personal. Like it's part of the fun for me is saying that I crafted every single item on my character. These gloves were, these gloves are dirt simple. I bought the base for 2 exalts, and then I just threw it into Reforged Life and Harvest for a number of days. That, you know, it was just sitting in my crafting tab. I hit everything that you see here, and then I crafted the socketed AoE gems, and that's it. You know, nothing flashy. And because we have the max frenzy charge implicit, we can craft this up later, and it's probably what I'm going to do. I'm either going to do that, or Elishar has this YouTube video which shows how to make like the super GG gloves. You know, they are just best in slot. And I may do that, or I may keep these gloves and craft them up and just get like the veiled elemental damage and all that stuff on them. We'll see. But yeah, very cheap way to just get another frenzy charge, get more damage and speed, and not really worry about you know, spending 8 to 15 to 100 exalts for getting the really big stuff. So these boots are actually, I worked with someone else for making these. So, you know, this was not 100% personal for getting them, but these are the boots that I'm using right now. Also, just, I want to say these are like expensive endgame GG boots, but you can just use Dark Ray Vectors. Like I was using Dark Ray Vectors until a couple days ago. Incredibly good. You can just use Dark Ray Vectors in endgame. You don't need big crafted boots, but you know, when you want to take it to the next level, this is what you're going to want. So these are expensive-ish to make, but actually not that hard to make. Start off with very cheap Blessed Boots, eye level 86. Slam it with a Redeemer Orb. Do Serrated until you hit Onslaught and another Influence mod. You want a Maven Orb to get elevated Influence mod. Repeat, rinse and repeat if you fail that Maven Orb, as usual. Buy boots that already have Tailwind in another mod. Hitting Tailwind in another mod is just... it's a pain in the butt, man. I would rather, like, you can Alteration Spam and Regal and do Reforges and try to do that. Honestly, I think it's just, you're going to save money in the long run by just getting something that has Tailwind and something else. Maven Orb and try to elevate your Tailwind. If you don't, I would probably just buy another pair of boots. The ideal, right, is if the Maven Orb fails, it's something that you can still sell for 1x. So ideally, you could set up a snipe for like Tailwind and I think like reduced effective poison or whatever, like the other Hunter mod. And like if you fail, you still have an elevated mod that is worth 1 to 2 exalts to someone else. So you can kind of offset that failed Maven Orb, and that's like a very smart way to craft. Once you have the woke, the elevated Tailwind and Onslaught, you woke them together. When you see Stun and Block filling your suffix, you cry a little bit. That only costs some dignity, no currency. Then you do Suffixes Cannot Be Changed, Reforge Crit, and then you see T1 Speed, and you're super happy. It's actually not a big deal. It's actually super not a big deal to what movement speed that you hit here. What we can do is, so we hit T1 movement speed, that's plenty good. What we can do instead is do Suffixes Cannot Be Changed and Reforge Crit, and then when there's an open prefix, we can Ashling Slam, and the Ashling Slam can give us even better move speed, which is 30 plus 12% when you haven't been hit. So that is like an improvement over these boots, would be Ashling Slam instead of the T1 move speed. It's funny that like T1 move speed is actually not worth as much as it used to be. But we hit T1 movement speed, and then I did 2 full gifted Uber Labs with Twice Enchanted. I did not get Ellie Pen. That would be the best. So it's still decent, but ideally we want the Elemental Pen. So that's the story of the boots. And then my belt is nothing special. I bought an Elder Base. Ideally, I wanted... so you'll see Elishar has a video. He actually just posted a video a few minutes ago about how to craft the Elder Stygian Vise that has all of the like Flask effect and elemental damage and crit chance and all that stuff. And check out Elishar if you want that. All of his stuff is really good. He shows how to craft like the big GG stuff. I'm showing how I crafted my personal stuff, right? So the one way that you can look at this, right, is like, yeah, you could craft the super big GG thing that gives you an additional 60% increased elemental damage. But you know what that GG belt doesn't have? It doesn't have this ridiculous amount of resistance on it. And actually, I have way more. That's with me holding Alt. Look at how much resistance I have. I have like 140% resistances on just my belt, and then another 13% from the Abyss Jewel. That's nutty, right? Like, between my belt and this ring, my resistances are almost already taken care of in 2 items, and that gives us so much more flexibility for doing full crit multi-jewels and all that stuff further down the line. So what I did is I bought an Elder Stygian Vise. What I really wanted for my other prefix was increased life. I think it goes from like 8 to 10%. And so for weeks, I had a Stygian Vise just sitting in that crafting tab, and I threw it into Reforged Life and Harvest, and I ended up hitting a bunch of resistance on it and T1 life, and I said, you know what, we're done. We can craft wet on it, and the belt is good enough. Long term, I probably, over the next month, as we start wrapping up the league, I probably will have another Stygian Vise and throw it in, and hopefully we can get something good. Or maybe I'll even try crafting the GG Elishar one, but I just love having this much resistance on a belt, and it takes care of stuff. I have a personal league goal of hitting 50 million Sirus DPS, but if I don't, that's okay. I don't have to min-max all that stuff. My build feels really good with the amount of life that I have. And honestly, kind of a side goal that would be kind of cool is, can we hit 5,000 life on an Ellie hit Raider that's doing over 40 million Sirus DPS? Now that's something that, is not as flashy on PoE Ninja, but I think it just makes the build more fun to play. It's just more fun to do like a delirious map and all that, and just have a good time. So that's a thing that I would encourage people to consider when they are putting together what is traditionally like a glass cannon build. Like maybe they can keep the cannon, like trim the edge of the cannon a little bit, and turn that glass into maybe wood or something. After the looking at the gear, very simple. Dying Sun, 2 more projectiles. You know, you're shooting 4 arrows. Dying Sun, you're shooting 6. And it also stacks with your barrage. You know, instead of shooting 4 arrows, you're shooting 6. And, you know, that's just really good for your damage on your single target barrage. Cinder Swallow Urn, just kind of self-explanatory, especially since we are igniting with our clear speed. So we get all of the bonus from there. Diamond Flask, you'll see that people on PoE Ninja are using a Quicksilver instead of Diamond Flask. But because we have these insane boots, and because we're using Avatar the Chase, in my opinion, when we have max flask charges, we are going fast enough. We do not need a Quicksilver Flask. And this is a way that we can actually get a little bit more damage out of our build by getting our effective crit chance closer to 100%. And then we have a Wise Oak, which is just the very cool thing about this setup is even if your fire res is not your max by default, right? Like I have more lightning res than fire res because I have a Dying Sun, boom, fire is automatically number 1. You don't have to worry about balancing your res as much. So that's a very cool little combo. And then a Bottled Faith, which is just self-explanatory. Oh, one piece of gear that was not in the crafting, obviously, is there is only one required unique in the gear, which is very cool. It is the Zoph's Blood. Self-explanatory, we are a fire-based elemental hit raider, and Zoph's Blood is just 10% fire pen, cover enemies in ash so they take increased fire damage, and Avatar Fire, which converts all of our non-fire damage to fire at a 50% ratio, as well as it gives us life, gives us strength, and it's just really good. And we allocate Lava Lash, which gives us 8% more fire pen and 30% increased damage. There's no better anoint for that. So the passive tree is very close to the standard. There isn't a ton of flexibility here. Just sitting here thinking, there's really only 2 big changes that I made that are notable. So you look up any Ellie Hit Raider guide, you look in my POV below, this is the standard. You know, you go through here, Primal Spirit, grab as many jewel nodes as you can. A lot of the build is just based around these 2 cluster jewels, as with most modern builds. You know, we just go for attack speed and we get some mana leech. And then the ideal medium cluster jewels, when I get 2 more levels, I'm actually going to stack a 4th medium cluster jewel, is quick getaway and pressure points, more attack speed, more crit, double damage on our crits. Mine are not all perfect. I have magnifier here, which is really nice. And then in all of the small jewel slots, we are just stacking as much crit multi as possible. I actually have a link that I will be putting below to show you guys that how I get my Ellie hit jewels in the trade website. It's right here. So I have a search that has all of the crit multi as well as all of the crit chance, and then optional increase maximum life. So what you can do, as well as attack speeds, so you can turn all of these off if you just want crit multi, which is this is your GG, your end game jewels. You know, I started off with my crit chance up, and I started off getting more increased life, but when you want to get to like the really big DPS jewels, you turn these puppies off and you search here, and then you can sort by the weighted sum. And this will actually help you sort for the crit multi for all of your skills. So you can go for like the really big crit multi stuff. So I will have the link to this search below, and this will help you find your crit multi jewels. That's really the core here of the build. You know, you'll see in the POV, you know, in terms of leveling the character, I leveled as CA Toxic Rain. And I played that until level 90, and then I did a respec. I would not level the character as Elemental Hit. A lot of people, and this is a question, like this is an advanced build, right? Like a lot of people will ask the question, how do I level this character? And it sounds snarky, but it's almost like if you have to ask, you're probably like not in the right mindset for playing this build. Like this is an end game build where I would encourage you to play an entry level ranger and, you know, something like Toxic Rain, get that up to like level 90, maybe even 92, and then spec over. This is not a build that if you level it naturally and you put your passive points in this configuration, that it will feel good at level 70 or level 80. I would not do this. Level as Caustic Arrow, Toxic Rain, play that until 90, respec into this, and buy some gear first too. So, what makes this build, tick is we have 2 combat focuses. And what these do is, elemental hit will choose between lightning, fire, cold. We want to make it only choose fire. And so we use 2 combat focuses, so it can only choose fire. And then that combines with our Zoth's Blood. So then we get like really, really good damage conversion with Avatar of Fire. And all of the damage just gets funneled into pure fire. And then we stack attack speed, we attack crit multi, and as many frenzy charges as possible. Then we grab life and quality of life and some flask charge stuff while we can, and that is literally it. We have point blank, which when we want to do our single target damage, we want to be touching the bosses. We're a glass cannon, it's scary. We try to do a DPS race and kill them before they kill us, and that is the name of the game. There is nothing else flashy about this tree. The 2 notable changes that I made with my passive points are I did not take Wind Dancer. So you can see it will take me 3 points from anywhere to get to Wind Dancer. Some people, you'll see people go through thick skin perhaps and get Wind Dancer. And I just don't like Wind Dancer. I explained why earlier in the video, and I just would rather not sacrifice those 3 points to give up maybe just some flat life or some or another cluster jewel. And that's just my personal choice. The one big thing here that I think separates my build from other people is you'll see a lot of people taking Avatar of the Veil. I find Quartz Infusing and phasing kind of pointless. Okay, fine, yes. There are defensive characteristics to it. If you really want to dodge more, that's fine. I would rather kill them before they even get to attack. I don't like relying on dodge and evasion in the first place. I would rather just have decent flat life and try to kill them first. That's just how I like to play. So I think Quartz Infusion to me is a dead point. And then Avatar Veil is very, very cool. Elemental Avoidance is very, very cool. I'm not going to lie. And then, nearby enemies always being, having exposure is very, very cool. And them having less accuracy is also very, very cool. I would rather just be attacking faster, moving faster, going faster. Like, if I'm going to play a Raider, I'm going to get the Onslaught. I'm getting Avatar of the Chase. Like, it's going to be really, really hard to convince me to ever go Avatar of the Veil over Avatar of the Chase. I pick a Raider to go fast. That's why I play the character. That's, it's my personal choice. But, yep, we always have Onslaught. Our Onslaught is always super, super good. It's super, super fast. And that combos with our elevated Onslaught on our boots. We always have Onslaught, so we always have 10% increased attack, cast, and movement speed. We don't even care about the Onslaught on kill. We don't care about the Onslaught flask. We always have it. And so that's an additional 10% attack and movement speed. And then, like I said, everything just always feels good. We always have 110% movement speed. That's how I like to play. If you like it, it's fine. But 20%, and then for the big DPS measuring, right? You're actually missing out on DPS by not having Avatar of the Chase versus Avatar of the Veil. Like, okay, your single target, they have minus 20% resistance. Who cares? I'm already using Wave of Conviction that's doing minus 15%, right? Like, that's just 5% pen, and you're giving up the incredible attack and movement speed from Avatar of the Chase. Doesn't work for me. That sounds like an awful choice. But sure, you do you, man. And then, so anyway, that's my preference. And then really we stack to your preference as much crit chance, crit multi as much as we can, leaning towards crit multi, but I'm also I like to be balanced. I like to have some chaos res. I like to have some life in there. The 5% reduced mana cost of skills here is actually very deliberate. So you'll see that my Ellie hit costs 1 and 14 mana. Without this, it costs 3 and 16 mana. And with only 48 mana unreserved, that's actually noticeable. That is actually noticeable. And so I actually bought that on purpose. And then, so this is just a quality of life jewel. I sacrificed, 30 crit multi for that, and that is on purpose. The last jewel here is a Watcher's Eye. The big one would be attack damage from precision, and then crit multi, the penetrate fire res. Those are incredibly expensive. It's like 100, 150x, whatever, super crazy GG jewel. We have a 2-node one, a 2-notable one that we got for maybe 15 to 20x, and I'm happy enough with this. Further on down the road, maybe I will get that, if I'm sitting on 100x and I don't know what to do, but I'm happy enough with this. So yeah, that's the passive tree. One thing here is this is a little bit expensive. I think it was like 2 exalts, but you want to eventually get a Corrupted Blood on one of your combat focus jewels, because that frees up, you don't have to worry about a Corrupted Blood on any other jewel in your tree. I do have a Searching Eye jewel in my Stygian Vise that gives me Chaos Res, little crit strike chance, and some flat damage. Yeah, so I'll just leave you guys with this Forge of the Phoenix kill just to show off a little bit bigger of a boss kill, and hopefully, you know, this is me just presenting a personal build to me. I don't think, you know, especially with these cases, I'm trying really hard to say that these are personal choices. There is no objectively better. There is just, you know, balancing your life, your defense, your quality of life, and all that, and just seeing what works for you. And that's what I really want to get across with this video, is the ideal build is one that feels the best to you and is the most fun to play. And that's really what matters at the end of the day. If you can play a build and really enjoy it, and you want to stick with it and tweak it, you know, maybe you want to go even more defensive than I did and put this together. Or maybe you do want to do like the 200 million DPS. Like, that's totally cool. You know, that is a valid choice that you can do. The most important thing is to have fun with your build, enjoy it, and what I really like and respect is personalizing it and doing something a little bit different, and not doing the cookie cutter thing that the top 10 people on PoE Ninja are doing. So, you know, hopefully this inspires you to at least think about trying out this build, or maybe even change your approach to your own build, or how you approach other builds in the future, and maybe you'll come up with something really, really cool that no one else has thought of. That's just what I like about the game. So thanks for watching. I know I ramble quite a bit when I'm talking about this stuff, but this is you know, this is one of those builds that for me is just a very personal thing, and I was actually hesitant to even make a video about it. There's a lot of this is a build that's been around for a long time, right? You know, there's a lot of guides out there for elemental hit raiders. You know, this is my own personal take on it, and this is what works for me and what I enjoy. So hopefully at the least I inspired you to think about how you approach your builds, and yeah, hopefully you just enjoyed this. So, you know, thanks for watching, and you know, if you liked it, I would appreciate a subscription on the old YouTubes, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks.